Let's be honest, every clinic and clinician recommends a different skin booster, and they all say that the one they use is amazing and the best. But how the hell is a member of the public meant to actually work out which one is truly the best? I've taught thousands of doctors globally, and I'm going to show you how to work this out today without recommending a single brand, without giving you any opinion, without selling you anything, and without any sponsorship. And as a bonus, I'm going to show you how you can do one specific thing at home so you might not even need injectable treatments. The first question to ask is an important one because, well, what do we all want from injectables for skin quality? We want to try and lift the skin. So what you need to do as a patient in order to not get fooled is understand what that actually means from an anatomical perspective so you can choose or calculate the right product or clinic. And this is important because anatomy doesn't rely on opinion, and it doesn't matter what's being recommended to you. If the product doesn't produce the very, very specific proteins in our anatomy that I'm about to show you, which create the actual tightness and the lift, then you're not going to get any tightness or lift. So the first question to ask is, which type of collagen does your chosen product produce? Understand that there's 28 different types in the body. I'd say most injectors don't even know that, let alone which types their chosen product induces. Once you ask this question to clinics or manufacturers or doctors that you're thinking of going to get the treatment, you'll realize that nearly every product in the world basically just makes type 1 and possibly with a bit of type 3. If you're lucky, they may have a little bit of type 4 and 7, but generally if they do, they'll be too embarrassed to tell you exactly how much because it's only going to be a tiny bit. Here's how understanding this can prevent you from ever choosing the wrong product again. Tightness of the skin and the ability to lift comes from the integrity, quality, and quantity of certain very, very specific proteins that keep everything together. Go to Google and look up the structure of something called the DEJ, the dermo-epidermal junction. Here, you'll see clear as day that proteins like collagen type 4 and 7 are amongst the most crucial for these characteristics. Not in terms of my opinion, but as a matter of anatomical fact. In order to see if you can trust what I'm saying, the best exercise to do here is to try and prove me wrong that these proteins aren't found in this part of the anatomy. People that fail to understand this are quite often the ones that end up being disappointed with the results, having spent quite a lot of their hard-earned money. And you can prevent that with the following. If you do the exercise that I just told you, you're arming yourself with the ability to rule out certain products from what you might get injected into your skin because you now know that you need large amounts of type 4 and 7 collagen if you want to lift and tighten. So if you ask your injector which types of collagen the product they're recommending to you makes, and they just say type 1 or type 1 and 3, you know what that means now in terms of how good that product is and also the knowledge level of that person making the recommendation. And remember now, I haven't given you a single product opinion or recommendation because anatomy knowledge outweighs that. But here's a really common mistake that leads to people being disappointed about their skin not being elastic after treatment. After all, who doesn't want elasticity in their skin? And actually, if you stick around, I'm going to show you a video of something that gave true elasticity to a patient in as little as 24 hours. And you can trust the result because it's on video and it wasn't even made by me. So here's the second question that ensures your skin becomes elastic. Does your product produce elastin? You see, collagen doesn't really yield elasticity. Elastin does that instead. Now, some people will tell you that you can't produce elastin once you're an adult. I've heard that myth before. However, there is hard cause and effect data to prove that you can produce elastin if you use the right injectable. In fact, it's not just possible, it's been proven so well that there's actually a patent that's been granted for generating the highest amount of elastin in our skin. I'm hesitant to tell you which product does this because I don't want to sell you anything here, but you can work it out for yourself if you stick around. I just want to arm you with the ability to see past marketing rubbish that even doctors all around the world fall for from what I see. And, I can say that because I've taught, like I said, literally thousands of clinicians all around the world, and I still continue to do so. Don't make the mistake of thinking that asking about the right types of collagen and elastin is how you choose the best product, though. It isn't. You have to pair those questions with the following third question. How much of these proteins does your product actually produce? You see, a company saying we make collagen isn't just nonsense because they haven't defined which type of collagen they make, but also because they might make such a tiny amount that's useless and you'll never know. And if you don't ask how much, you're leaving yourself open to paying for something that's not worth the money. A simple way to figure out whether something makes a decent amount is to ask the following exactly. Does your product produce the highest amount of all products in the world? You see, when you ask that, you'll notice instantaneously how many people are reluctant to answer with a single word answer of yes or no. Because it's a very bold claim to say that you make the most of any product in the world. And it won't be made unless there's absolute 100% confidence that it's true. And if it is, there should be a patent to prove that to you as well. Otherwise, a manufacturer leaves themselves open to huge amounts of litigation for lying and false advertising. Why is this question so good to memorize? Because it eliminates the possibility for the answer to have manipulated statistics because percentages can be misrepresented. Simply asking, is it the highest in the world, gets rid of that possibility. But there's a way they can still fool you. So watch out for this. If the word patent gets mentioned, ask, is it a patent for use or a patent for formula? One's utterly useless and embarrassing because it means nothing for clinical efficacy, and the other means that it can achieve things in the skin that's beyond any other product in the world. I can't tell you the number of manufacturers that patent something completely irrelevant to clinical efficacy, like in the manufacturing process, just so they can use the word patent in marketing because they know people will read it in a positive light. They don't count on people actually asking for details on the patent itself, or say people like me making videos showing you guys, the public, specifically what to ask for and the different types of patents in this industry. If they do tell you their product makes huge amounts of something, though, you have to be careful because that could actually be a bad thing when someone says it might produce only collagen type 1 and 3, but it increases it by 500%. Ask yourself, is that much of an isolated increase necessarily a good thing? For starters, a common reason you see a single type like type 1 produced in large quantities in one place is because a scar has been formed through a process called fibrosis. Secondly, type 1 is held in place in the skin using type 7, which are like hands reaching down to hold objects like phones or something. So you have 4 hands of type 7 in the dermoepidermal junction holding up, say, a maximum of 8 phones of type 1. And you suddenly create another 40 phones of type 1, but still with only 4 hands reaching down to hold on to them. What do you think is going to happen to those extra type 1 phones with no extra type 7 hands holding them in position? Do you think they're going to contribute to skin tightness or lifting? Or do you think maybe the body has processes to break down proteins that aren't contributing to physiology in an effort to conserve resources? Do you think maybe the proteins in places like the DEJ, which create tightness and lift, exist in specific ratios relative to one another so that there's no excess of a single one, which could lead to its breakdown, and therefore the subsequent reduction in treatment results longevity? Remember, I still haven't given you a single product recommendation or opinion. The key to not getting scars, like I mentioned, is to understand what I'm about to explain next with this following 4th question. Does it create protein by means of inflammation and irritation or physiology and homeostasis? So physiological and homeostatic increases mean that the product is helping your body function better, and the increase in protein production is going to be done in the way your body would do it. In other words, multiple protein types can be made and they'll all be done in the correct ratios to each other so that one won't be made in excess. For example, think about it. When and why would your body ever make an excess of anything? Why would it have evolved to waste energy and resources? However, when we intervene artificially, we can create large amounts of something in ways the body wouldn't if left to its own devices. Here's how that's relevant to your face. You might find that an injectable basically only produces type 1 collagen, or 1 and 3. I won't tell you how many do this, but you'll see for yourself very quickly when you start asking questions. Oh, and stay tuned to see exactly how to do that and call out the charlatans. This injectable may produce huge amounts of just type 1 or type 1 and 3, which might initially sound great, but you need to ask how it's doing it if you want to minimize the risk of complications. Why? Because the times when we produce huge amounts of type 1, as I've alluded to earlier, is during times of inflammation and trauma, because we have to create a scar that's tough and fibrous to protect what's underneath. Scar tissue for this conversation is type 1 collagen. During times of defense and protection, the body isn't interested in soft, bouncy, tight, lifted skin. It just needs to rapidly protect itself, and type 1 is one of the quickest to lay down in emergency situations. So if you want soft, bouncy skin, understand this. If an injectable works by creating harm through means of irritation, inflammation, or similar, it's going to make a very limited repertoire of proteins because the body only wants one type of collagen for protection. And it's also possibly just scarring you with fibrotic tissue by means of fibrosis, which you can't see because it's underneath the skin. Think about that very carefully when you see an advertised injectable that only produces 1 or 2 types of collagen, like 1 and 3, because it could be doing this to your face without you seeing it. This is a picture of a very, very popular skin booster that's used the world over and what it actually does inside the face. People use this particular injectable because they mention the word lift when talking about it. But when you really dig down into how it works, ask yourself, is it working by improving physiology and homeostasis, or lifting in any way at all? Or is it working by irritation and inflammation, which is why scar tissue has been made? I won't tell you which product it is right this moment, but I will leave a link to the picture in the description below so you can find out for yourself and avoid it like the plague if you wish. Also, if you find out which product it is by using the link, go to the social media of injectors that use it and see if you can spot how many use the word lift instead of fibrosis, and how many actually talk about the way it inflames and irritates in order to create such scar tissue. Some people even show off about the fact that they're official trainers for this product by writing it on their website or bio. But now that you know how it works and the likelihood that they actually don't, you see how embarrassing it is to say that you're not just a user, but an official trainer for a product like this. And remember, I still haven't given you a single product recommendation or opinion. But imagine someone took animal DNA from a species that's completely unrelated to us and injected you with it. Would you thank them or run away like a normal person? Here's the 5th question. Does it use foreign genetic material? It may sound ridiculous to most of you because you think, how on earth would injecting foreign genetic material into our cells be safe or even optimal for our physiology, considering that injecting ourselves with DNA strands of other species played no part in our evolution? But this is literally what people all around the world are falling for now. If you don't want to be one of them, because you know who Charles Darwin is, listen very carefully. There is no part of human physiology or homeostasis that is optimized by injecting the DNA of a foreign species. For the purposes of this video, DNA isn't even designed to be in the area outside cells, is it? Now, if I'm wrong and I've missed that particular part of Charles Darwin's teachings, then please let me know in the comments below. And if you think this is a stupid question to be asking, then you probably haven't heard of the products coming onto the market now that extracted the sperm of other species so they can inject its derivatives into your face. All the previous questions up till now are still ones to ask if someone offers this type of product to you too. You may or may not be surprised to see that even with this weird selection of ingredients, they still may not generate anything meaningful in the skin whatsoever, like multiple collagen types in maximal physiological amounts as well as elastin. And again, if you don't believe me, wait till I show you how you can fact check this yourself. Because before we get there, you need to know how to see if someone is using low purity ingredients that could contain bacterial products being injected into you. Question number 6. Are the ingredients cosmetic or pharmaceutical grade? Saying hyaluronic acid in the ingredient list gives you very limited information when you understand what I'm about to say. Not just because the molecular weight needs to be stated, due to the fact that different weights work in different ways, even opposing ways sometimes, but also because there are different qualities that can mean higher or lower adverse reaction rates. Most products in the market are cosmetic grade. Very few are pharmaceutical grade, which is much higher purity and therefore more safe, but it can cost 11 to 12 times more in comparison. Manufacturers which use pharmaceutical grade are ones that you may prefer. Everyone else that uses cosmetic grade instead, you have to ask, why are they using a grade that's lower purity and therefore higher reaction risk when they have the option to use the opposite instead? Again, I won't tell you the answer because I think you can work it out for yourselves now that you know the price difference. And if you really want to see if the injector you're going to actually understands hyaluronic acid, I'll leave a link to a video I made about it in the description below that shows you a decent level of detail on the topic that you can use to compare knowledge levels. Now, let's put all the knowledge in this video together here so you can physically judge injectables, injectors, and clinics. What you're about to see is how you can stand up for yourself against these manufacturers that peddle crap into the market and see facts without opinions or bias. On screen now are some of the most popular injectables on the market right now at the time of recording, as well as some which I've recently been asked about. Next to each one, in brackets, is the manufacturer. Many doctors here on YouTube and elsewhere may have talked about these, but go back to their videos and see if they answered all the questions I've put forward in this video. I've never seen a single one answer all of them before. In the description of this video is the contact email or contact form for each of these manufacturers, which I got from simply Googling, as well as a template email you can send. This template has all the questions in this video all written out for you. Now, when you receive the replies, what I want you to do is comment down below with the copied and pasted response that you get, so everyone can see how similar all injectables on the market may be, as well as how some manufacturers try to avoid questions which have a simple yes or no answer because they don't want to admit the truth and be honest about what they're marketing to you to have injected into your face. You can also send this to any clinic or clinician that you're thinking of visiting to test their knowledge or Googling skills and figure out if you're going to get the proteins that have been coded for over the last 4.5 million years of evolution in a highly inductive, physiological way. It also allows you to test which injector knows their stuff properly instead of just doing a one-day course on a product. The injectable product that I personally use hasn't been mentioned today because, like I said, I'm not interested in selling you anything in this video. But I'm very confident in the answers I would give these questions in relation to the one I choose. And as a bonus, I'm going to get a video on screen any second now of what the product I choose to use literally and physically does to a patient in as little as 24 hours. Now, this video wasn't taken by me. It was self-produced by a patient on the other side of the world to me because she wanted to document whether or not it worked in an objective way by videoing it all. I'll leave a link to the video in the description if you want to see the original post as well. And remember, I still haven't given you a single product recommendation or opinion. So there's been no bias here, and you can look up every single claim I made, such as the proteins found in certain parts of the anatomy, or which proteins are used as a result of inflammation, and much more if you wish. If you see someone responding negatively to this video, is this something negative about me as a person? Or is it that I've said something factually incorrect? Pay attention to that if the time comes. Here's the video on the side of the screen now. Oh, and about that bonus, actually, almost forgot. I mentioned earlier. I said I'd show you a way to do stuff at home that means you might not even need clinical injectables. I wasn't lying. I always recommend doing as much as you can at home, so it's cheaper, less risky than injecting things into you, and can be done chronically instead of like a few times over a year. Now, if you like that idea, then there's an incredible way that I don't think I've ever seen any clinic in the world offer. It uses a single hormone ingredient on your skin, not in your body, to create more visual and intracellular anti-aging changes, which are proved with microscope images, than possibly any other anti-aging skincare in the world. It's so incredible. It even works on people close to 90 years old, and I'm doing it on myself too. I've literally put everything else skincare-wise in the bin, so I can use just this one cream on its own. It's not a short video because it's only fair and respectful that if something sounds so ridiculously good that I go through it in lots of depth and detail so you can see it's real. And as well as that, when you deal with products as powerful as this, as a patient, you need to pay attention and take it seriously. And if you want to get it, there's a link in the description to that video.